All right, today we're jumping into a really fascinating puzzle, the Japanese writing system. Now, at first glance, it can look incredibly complex, but it actually tells this amazing story of history, adaptation, and just pure ingenuity. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so take a look at this sentence right here. Even if you don't read a single word of Japanese, you can immediately see three completely different styles of characters all working together in one sentence. You've got these really complex, almost picture-like symbols, then these simple, curvy, flowing ones, and then these sharp, angular ones, which, leads to a pretty big question.
To figure that out, we have to go on a journey way back in time, about 1,500 years actually, to unpack one of the most unique linguistic stories in the world. It's a fantastic tale about solving one problem, which then accidentally creates a brand new one, which then sparks this absolutely brilliant innovation.
So, let's set the scene. Our story starts in ancient Japan. You have a society with a really rich spoken language and culture, but there's one huge thing missing. They had no way to write any of it down. The solution, it turned out, would have to come from somewhere else.
So, way back around the 5th century, Japan started to adopt the incredibly sophisticated writing system of its powerful neighbor, China. These Chinese characters came over with things like Buddhist texts, cultural artifacts, and official government documents. And just like that, for the very first time, the Japanese language had a way to be written down.
Now, these characters are what we call kanji. And unlike our alphabet, where letters are just sounds, kanji are logographic. That means each symbol represents a whole idea or a word. The character for mountain kind of looks like a mountain, and it means mountain. Simple, right? Well, not exactly. See, the big problem was that these characters were built for Chinese, a totally different language with its own grammar and its own sound.
And this is where the real challenge kicks in. To make kanji work, the Japanese had to come up with two completely different ways to read every single character. The first is the onyomi, or the sound reading. It's basically an approximation of the original Chinese pronunciation. The other is the kunyomi, the meaning reading, which is the native pre-existing Japanese word for whatever the symbol means.
Here's a fantastic way to wrap your head around this. Imagine if we had a symbol for water, but sometimes you had to read it as aqua, like from Latin, and other times you had to read it as water, from Old Germanic. That's the kind of mental gymnastics Japanese readers were dealing with. But believe it or not, it gets even crazier.
Just take a look at this. It's wild. This one single kanji, which means life or birth, can be read as sei or sho from the Chinese sounds, but it can also be read as the native Japanese words ikiru, umareru, hairu, ki, nama, and even more. That's at least 7 common readings for one symbol. Can you imagine? You can see how this system, while it worked, was just incredibly clunky. Something had to change.
Okay, so that massive challenge actually sparked something amazing, a truly Japanese solution. Instead of just struggling with the imported system, the Japanese decided to invent their own.
The big idea? Create 2 brand new scripts, which are known together as kana. Now, unlike kanji, which are all about meaning, kana characters are purely phonetic. Each one just represents a sound, or a syllable, like ka, shi, or to. And here's the brilliant part. They were made by simplifying the very kanji that were causing all the trouble in the first place. And you can see the 2 different paths they took right here. On one side, you've got this beautiful, flowing, cursive style where they simplified entire characters. And on the other side, a much sharper, more academic approach where they just took one little piece of a complex character. These 2 methods gave birth to 2 totally distinct scripts.
So first up, we have hiragana. It's all about these rounded, flowing, really elegant shapes. They came about from writing kanji really fast, in a sort of cursive, shorthand way. And because it looked so graceful, it became super popular with the women of the imperial court. They used it to write diaries, poetry, and even some of the world's first novels, like the incredible Tale of Genji. And then you've got katakana. If hiragana is curvy and artistic, katakana is all sharp angles and simplicity. It was actually invented by Buddhist monks and scholars who needed a quick way to make notes. So they would just take one small part, a fragment, of a really complex kanji to stand in for its sound. It was basically a cheat sheet for adding pronunciation guides to difficult texts. So now we have all 3 pieces on the board, the imported kanji and the 2 homegrown scripts, hiragana and katakana. So how on earth do they all work together today? Well, what's so cool is that they didn't replace each other. Instead, over hundreds of years, they each settled into very specific roles,
creating the amazing hybrid system we see today.
Well, it's actually a super elegant system when you see it in action. Kanji handle the heavy lifting. They're used for the core, meaning-heavy words like nouns, and the stems of verbs and adjectives. Hiragana is like the grammatical glue. It connects everything, spelling out particles and the endings of verbs that change. And katakana, well, it got its own set of special jobs.
Katakana's modern role is just so flexible. It basically became the script for anything that felt foreign or needed to stand out. So you'll see it for borrowed words like terebi for TV or for foreign names. It's also used for sound effects, like wan wan for a dog's bark, and even to add emphasis, kind of like how we use italics in English.
So, let's circle all the way back to that mystery sentence from the beginning. It all makes perfect sense now, right? Watashi for I and Nihongo for Japanese language are core ideas, so they get kanji. The little connecting words wa, de, and o are grammar, so they're in hiragana. Telebi for TV is a foreign word, so it's in katakana. And the verb at the end is a perfect mix of the kanji for study and the hiragana for the polite ending. It's like a finely tuned machine.
But the story isn't over. This system isn't some relic of the past that's just frozen in time. It's a living, breathing part of the culture that's still evolving today.
So get this, the Japanese government officially designates 2,136 Joyo kanji. These are the essential characters that you need for daily life. Japanese kids spend years in school just mastering these, learning all their different readings, and figuring out the subtle rules for when to use each script.
And this really says it all. The Japanese writing system isn't complicated just for the sake of it. It's a living roadmap of Japan's entire history. You can literally see the initial influence from China, followed by a period of incredible internal innovation, and now the modern era of global interaction. All of that history is visible in a single sentence.
At the end of the day, a writing system is so much more than just a tool for communication. It's a living piece of history, a cultural artifact that tells the story of a people's journey. It really makes you think, what story is hiding inside the letters and symbols that you use every single day?